The 19th CPC National Congress heralded a new era for China, assessing conditions, planning directions, formulating policies, promoting reform. Clearly, the party's leadership of the country is strengthening. But how is the CPC exercising its leadership over China's foreign policy? Why is the CPC itself engaging in international diplomacy? What kinds of Chinese wisdom and experience does the CPC bring to the world? To learn more, watch Closer to China's special series, Understanding the Communist Party of China. In March 2018, at the two sessions political meetings, the Central Foreign Affairs leading group of the Communist Party of China, the CPC, became the Central Foreign Affairs Commission. No mere change of name, the message is beaming. The CPC, the party, is enhancing its coordination and direct control of China's foreign policy. We see multiple expressions of this subtle but significant change. In October 2017, at the 19th CPC National Congress, Foreign Affairs was more proactive, promoting CPC General Secretary Xi Jinping's grand vision of a community with a shared future for all humanity. In December 2017, nearly 300 foreign political leaders from more than 120 countries came to Beijing to attend the CPC in Dialogue with World Political Parties high-level meeting. In June 2018, the CPC held its Central Conference on Work Relating to Foreign Affairs, only the second of its kind since Xi Jinping took office. This was no clandestine, underreported meeting. In fact, all of these events were high profile. So, what's the purpose of the party's increasingly hands-on role in China's diplomacy? Why now? Why broadcast it to the world? What's the new working relationship between the new Central Foreign Affairs Commission of the CPC and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the government? And, most important for China's foreign policy, in China's new era are changes in store. Answers bring us closer to China. On June 22, 2018, in Beijing, the leadership of the Communist Party of China, the CPC, held a high-level meeting on China's foreign policy, the Central Conference on Work Relating to Foreign Affairs. This was the second such meeting since Xi Jinping took office as China's president in 2013. These conferences are highest-level, authoritative gatherings of the entire leadership designed to encapsulate China's internal analysis of international trends and assess how China should anticipate and respond to future foreign affairs events. To ensure a centralized, unified leadership over foreign affairs, the CPC established the Foreign Affairs Commission of the CPC Central Committee with Xi Jinping as its head. How will this new leadership group affect China's diplomacy? To understand, we explore the mechanisms of how the CPC manages ministries and agencies involved in foreign affairs. The transformation from a leading group to a commission looks like a wording change, but in fact has very powerful implications in terms of one giving guidance and leadership and the other actually directly responsible for implementation.
I started working here in 2005. From 2005 to 2011, it was still called the Central Foreign Affairs Leading Group and had not yet been transformed into a commission. There is no doubt that this reflects the strengthened role of the party leadership. But what I want to point out is another trend, a trend of growing importance for foreign affairs in our national affairs. The change of the name from a group to a commission actually indicates an increased significance. You may have also noticed that in this era of globalization and information development, it is extremely difficult to tell what is internal and what is external. How do you mark the boundaries? It is really difficult to do so.
Such an arrangement will strengthen the leadership of the Central Committee over Foreign Affairs, at least in 4 aspects. First, in theoretical innovation. With the establishment of the Commission, special emphasis has been attached to the role of the theoretical innovation, as well as a series of pragmatic innovations in China's foreign affairs. Secondly, the current diplomatic work involves many aspects and is increasingly in need of top-level design and coordination. So this new mechanism is also to provide consultation to the top-level decision-making party of the Central Committee to further aid it in decision-making, discussion of major issues, and planning, as well as direction setting. Thirdly, it urges and promotes reforms in mechanisms and institutions of foreign affairs, as well as the building up of diplomatic working teams, which also requires a dedicated department for planning and promotion. Furthermore, it needs to enable the party Central Committee to make diplomatic decisions in order for more effective implementation. With this department, we can have an entrusted party to examine all relevant foreign affairs tasks of the party Central Committee. At least from these 4 aspects, its functions will be strengthened. If the mechanism fulfills its roles well in these 4 aspects, it will naturally help China create a new vista for development of its foreign affairs.
Let's discuss the role of the CPC in China's foreign policy. Obviously, with the party leading the country in all aspects, the party has always exercised leadership and overarching decision-making. Give me the overview of the party's leadership of foreign policy, and then how specifically now is it different from the way it was maybe 5 years ago?
这个都是说，就是党的领导不单是体现在就是中央。
The party leadership is reflected not merely in the central top-level design, but also in execution of the decisions. The first principle of Xi Jinping's diplomacy thought is to adhere to the authority of the party Central Committee as the overall guidance and strengthen unified party leadership in foreign affairs. Why do we emphasize unified leadership of the party over foreign affairs? In my understanding, the international community still features uncertainty and a lack of stability, the trends of which are both on the rise. To strengthen the party leadership in such an uncertain world is in itself an action to increase the degree of certainty. China is now entering the center of the world stage and has never been closer to realizing its goal of national rejuvenation. Under such circumstances, in order to fulfill our task, we may face many challenges, risks, or difficulties, for which the only solution is unified leadership. Therefore, in order to respond to such an international landscape of uncertainty, China's method is to strengthen the party leadership, which provides a very significant political guarantee.
When the party has an increased role in foreign affairs, because it's, in a sense, a zero-sum game, somebody else has to have a relatively less. If the party is relatively more, the other way to phrase it is somebody has relatively less. So it seems obvious that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has less discretion or less authority to do things on its own than it had in the past, which is the other way of saying the party has a relatively stronger role, so the Ministry of Foreign Affairs must have a relatively weaker role.
No, you can't understand it that way. Strengthening the party leadership does not mean reducing the role of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, to which I have also offered my service in the past. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs has its own party committee and party branches. One important change you should be aware of is that after the 2 sessions this year, Mr. Wang Yi is currently a member of the State Council, a member of the Central Committee, as well as Foreign Minister. Against the backdrop of strengthened party leadership, the role of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has not been impaired, but rather strengthened. Therefore, as we try to enhance the party's unified leadership, the role of the ministry will not be impaired, but only strengthened. The fact that Minister Wang Yi also serves as a State Council member is solid justification for this argument.
At what levels is the CPC leadership of foreign policy working today? Is it only at the level of the CPC Politburo, or does it extend down into the inner workings of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs?
The party's leadership is at the very top, so we first need to strengthen the top-level design and overall coordination of various parties. Apart from the mechanism guarantee of the Central Foreign Affairs Leading Group or Central Foreign Affairs Commission and National Security Commission, we also have departments that serve as mechanisms below the two commissions. Their major leaders will be involved in the department work and thoroughly implement policy measures confirmed at the two commissions. They will disseminate the upper-level directives downwards. In actual practice, we can also see that as China moves forward on its path of comprehensively deepening reform, it has also introduced adjustments and reforms to embassies and consulates of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs abroad, as well as to the entire ministry. In these reforms, we may well understand how the Party Central Committee emphasizes diplomatic work through institutional design, staffing, and resource allocation. The work of strengthening party leadership will also embrace more in-depth development.
To enhance communications with people of different countries, China has developed several parallel tracks, and one that is perhaps unique to China is party-to-party diplomacy. In December 2017, the Communist Party of China, the CPC, held a high-level meeting with global political parties of all kinds, sharing experiences and lessons with foreign counterparts. Although the CPC has long worked with parties from different countries, in the past it was largely with other communist and socialist parties. In July 2018, in Tanzania, the CPC held a conference with leaders of African political parties to explore issues of peace and development. This African conference is part of the CPC's overall dialogue with world political parties organized by the International Department of the CPC Central Committee. It is also the first time the CPC held the high-level meeting outside China. What does this event imply? What role is party diplomacy playing in China's overall diplomacy? What happened at the recent high-level dialogue between the Communist Party of China and African political parties?
It is well known that at the end of last year, we held the first CPC in dialogue with world political parties high-level meeting, which has echoed the need of many political parties and received worldwide recognition. During the meeting, General Secretary Xi Jinping called for the meeting's institutionalization and received great support and applause from many political parties. Many developing countries, particularly those in Africa, have commented how they think of this dialogue as highly meaningful, as it provides them with a platform for exchanges and communication of theories and philosophies. They have demonstrated strong support for General Secretary Xi's proposal. In response, we decided to hold an event in Africa with the theme of theories and practices of political parties in exploring development paths suitable to national situations. Communication between political parties of China and African countries can well serve to promote relationships between countries and parties. It has been well established over the years that communication between the CPC and African ruling parties, as well as other important parties, can indeed greatly boost mutual understanding, friendship between peoples, and friendly ties between states.
What's the purpose or significance of institutionalizing this party-to-party communication, specifically catalyzed and encouraged by the Communist Party of China, China's ruling party, with political parties from various parts of the world of all persuasions?
Institutionalization is more than a word. It is more the demand of these parties. First, the meeting offers a platform for exchanges between these parties. I have just mentioned that political parties are not only decision makers for a country's policies, but also executors. As the political parties govern the country, they accumulate experiences and lessons, which are valuable for sharing with other countries. Second, communication between political parties, especially between ruling parties, plays a very positive role in promoting national diplomatic relations. We know that political parties make decisions for national policies on all fronts. They decide on the country's foreign relations with other countries. We have also felt very strongly over the years about how inter-party relations are affecting inter-country relations. Lastly, and I have also covered this previously, this dialogue features communication not only between the CPC and other ruling parties, but also among other parties as well. This is a very important point and is very crucial to its success.
Last December, a rather unique event occurred where the Communist Party of China had this major conference interacting with political parties from all over the world, where the party is now saying it is going to engage not just with communist parties around the world, but with all political parties around the world. So from your perspective and understanding this, what was the significance of that transformation?
That is to say, from 2014 onwards, we have staged 3 high-level meetings of the CPC in dialogue with World, and for the 4th, we started to focus on political parties. For the first 3 meetings, there was no specification of the political leaders, but for the 4th, political parties were highlighted. In this 4th dialogue, we can indeed observe prominent differences with the 3 previous ones. We don't distinguish the ideologies among the various political parties from across the world attending the dialogue. So in comparison to the past bilateral and multilateral dialogues between the CPC and other political parties, this one features the CPC dialogue with all kinds of different political parties in the world. So its significance is indeed remarkable. First, it sets up a new platform for such communication between the CPC and global political parties.
Ever since reform and opening up, the CPC hasn't been defining friend or foe based on ideological ground. Rather, it has transcended ideologies and maintained exchanges with different types of political parties for more than 40 years now. By transcending the ideology, we mean we not only communicate with communist parties, but also political parties of different ideologies, religious beliefs, regions and cultures. Well, of course, these political parties should be legitimate ones in their own countries. It has actually reflected the openness in the thinking of the CPC. We hope to maintain our communication with different types of political parties, and through such exchanges increase mutual learning. General Secretary Xi Jinping has put forth a concept called the new type party relationship, the core of which is to seek common ground while allowing for differences based on mutual respect and mutual learning among parties.
With this dialogue in place, it will surely complement China's major country diplomacy with Chinese characteristics in an important way. It marks an integral part of our major country diplomacy system. It's known to us all that such important work is to be unfolded under the government framework among different countries' governments. In the meanwhile, as the CPC stands as the leading power in China, China's diplomatic work unfolds under the CPC leadership, so the inter-party communication between the CPC and other countries' parties improves. When the CPC communicates with other types of political parties, i.e. non-communist parties, the CPC will engage with them on the basis of a fundamental principle of full independence, complete equality, mutual respect, and non-interference in each other's internal affairs. With such communication, whether they are ruling parties of the country or not, strengthened communication will complement our country-to-country relationship. That is, once we launch a dialogue, it will emerge as a relatively fixed mechanism. As long as we continue to promote their development, the relationship between China and those countries and political parties will become more comprehensive with overall advancement.
To participate more effectively in foreign affairs and to carry out President Xi Jinping's grand vision of building a community with a shared future, The Central Foreign Affairs Commission, under the leadership of the CPC, works with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and other relevant agencies of the government.
中国方案是构建人类命运共同体，实现共赢共享。
Challenges are obvious. The China threat theory seems to be increasing in certain circles, and various conjectures about China's ambitions in diverse areas are cropping up. Is China's diplomacy up to the task? What kind of future do China's diplomats expect? In this high-level dialogue between China's ruling party, the Communist Party of China, and world political parties, should anyone fear that the hidden agenda of China's Communist Party is to export its communist system?
Personally speaking, I don't think the China threat theories among the Western media or Western government officials have anything to do with misunderstandings or concerns. Rather, they know the CPC's propositions or practices in foreign affairs and the international community fairly well. The reason they create and disseminate such threat theories or slanderous condemnation is because they're prejudiced against us, haunted by the Cold War mentality, or because they're defining foes based on ideological grounds. However, on the CPC side, we have always been showing our respect and treating others on an equal footing as we reach out to other political parties, be they African or not. To conclude, the four principles for the CPC's foreign policy are independence, complete equality, mutual respect, and non-interference in each other's internal affairs. Under such circumstances, we object to others exporting of their systems and models to China, and we will also never export or force ours onto others.
Ever since reform and opening up in 1978, China's foreign policies have been quite clear. That is, we do not define friend or foe on ideological grounds, be it in politics, economy, diplomacy, security, or whatsoever. This means we have with socialist countries not only inter-party relationships, but also political exchanges in terms of ideological communication, as well as communication in governance experiences. But such a pattern is only limited to socialist countries. With non-socialist countries, we strictly follow our basic philosophy and principles in our foreign relations with independent and peaceful diplomacy. Since the 18th CPC National Congress, General Secretary Xi Jinping's diplomacy thought has also confirmed our principles, guidelines, and policies in our diplomatic relations with foreign countries, and ideology has long been removed from our core position in addressing foreign relations.
These Chinese culture-specific items, some of our political systems and institutions, including the role the party leadership plays in our foreign affairs, are known as Chinese characteristics, which suit the national conditions of our country and which play critical and irreplaceable roles. In particular, our party leaders have set an excellent role model as China fulfills its international responsibilities and obligations in always honoring its word and keeping its promises. As a matter of fact, in our international community, we hope other countries can also act as China does in advocating pragmatism and efficiency, which manifests itself in different ways. However, we are not saying that we want other countries to rigidly copy and paste. We hope political parties of other countries can also play their roles, not necessarily exactly the same as the CPC does in China, but at least play their own critical roles in their own political system.
Given the CPC's increasing emphasis on an international community with a shared future, mutual development, and win-win cooperation, it seems paradoxical that in many places of the world, the sense of a China threat during this same period of time has actually been rising. How do you account for that?
Over the past years, China's continual growth in power has also been greeted with all sorts of China threat theories. For instance, there are arguments claiming that China's military will be a threat. In fact, in recent years, China has been actively engaged in military exchanges with other countries, improving transparency and enhancing mutual understanding. Everybody can tell that China's military development is making greater contributions to the world peace. Under the UN framework, we're also shouldering more responsibilities in peacekeeping and setting up more police troops. We believe that with the guidance of the policy of major country diplomacy with Chinese characteristics, China will continue to follow its own measures and principles and be engaged in global governance as well as in regional affairs we have previously taken part in. We have made it quite clear we adhere to the path of peaceful development with equality and mutual respect. As long as China sticks to promoting its work as guided by these principles, policies, and philosophies, more and more people will see how China's development is making more and more contributions by bringing about more and more public good. In this way, maybe their China threat theory will also collapse.
So how will the party now continue to augment its direct participation in diplomacy and in foreign affairs and in global governance? What are some of the plans going forward? We had the big event at the end of last year in terms of interaction, the dialogue, high-level dialogue of political parties. How do you pursue that further?
From the perspective of the CPC, we currently maintain regular contact with more than 400 political parties from more than 160 countries around the world. By regular contact, I mean we have frequent exchanges. Through our communication channels, we are together creating a network where the CPC has exchanges with other parties in the world. So we hope to promote such exchanges and communication. Political parties serve as the most fundamental political organizations in the majority of countries around the world. Only apart from a few exceptions of Gulf states that do not have political parties, most countries have their own political parties who act as policymakers, as well as representatives who guide public opinion. Based on this positioning, based on these three roles, we wish to enhance communication with all these political parties and fulfill our roles as the political leader. We also hope that, through such exchanges and communication of governance experiences, political parties around the world can gradually awaken to some problems in advocating world peace. We have also run into a lot of deficits in peace, development and governance, which require the political leadership of political parties as they become engaged in global governance and play their due role in advancing the world towards a better future.
It seemed no accident that following the 19th CPC National Congress in October 2017, the first major event was the CPC's high-level outreach to foreign political parties in December. The signal was unmistakable. Henceforth, the CPC would be out front, unabashedly prominent. There is genuine interest abroad. Foreign political parties seek understanding of how the CPC has led China to such rapid development while maintaining its control and vitality over almost 7 decades of uninterrupted rule. The next CPC high-level outreach in July 2018 was held in Tanzania, Africa, evincing that close CPC interactions with African political parties was both a priority for China and an area deemed fruitful for mutual benefit, as sharing developmental experiences facilitates China-Africa cooperation and builds a community of a shared future between China and Africa. Still, the question remains, what can the CPC as a political party do that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs as a government agency cannot do? It's an enhancement to exchange political party experiences. It also serves as a channel to build relationships with political parties of other countries. Moreover, the CPC's outreach process represents the CPC's emergence in the world, proud of its achievements in China, ready to compete openly in the global marketplace of political ideas and models, and seeking to contribute to new forms of global governance in a multipolar, dynamic, and all too often turbulent world. That's Closer to China.